Someone suggested that I watch this here about Thrace, I guess they call it Thrace, and the ancient European history. So I've never heard of this before. So I'm going to learn about it today. You understand? With you now. Welcome to Mr. Giant Reacts, the ting, and ting, and ting. Let's go ahead and see what this is teaching us today.
At the foot of the Vitosha mountain sits Bulgaria's capital city, Sofia, dating to the 5th century BC. Bulgaria is a Balkan nation with diverse terrain encompassing Black Sea coastline, a mountainous interior and rivers, including the Danube, and a cultural melting pot with Greek, Slavic, Ottoman, and Persian influences, with a rich heritage of traditional dance, music, and costumes. The Thracians were a group of Indo-European or Aryan tribes inhabiting a large area in Eastern and Southeastern Europe. They spoke the Thracian language, part of the Indo-European language family, and in the Iliad they are described as allies of the Trojans in the Trojan War against the ancient Greeks. In Greek mythology, Thrax was regarded as one of the reputed sons of the god Ares. Euripides mentions that one of the names of Ares himself was Thrax, since he was regarded as the patron of Thrace. His golden shield was kept in his temple at Bistonia in Thrace. In the absence of written historical records, the origins of the Thracians remain obscure, with the current consensus being that a Proto-Thracian people developed from a mixture of indigenous people and Indo-Europeans or Aryans from the time of Proto-Indo-European expansion and invasions in the early Bronze Age, around 1500 BC. During the Iron Age, around...
The more I read this, I look at this history and stuff of Europe, it seems like Europe is made up of a whole bunch of different people coming together and mixing and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Some may say, oh, no, you're wrong, or stuff like that. But, the more I look at it, you know what I mean? The more I get this history going. And it seems like it all centers around that specific area there, or what we might call, I guess, Eastern Europe. It seems to be centered there, and then it expanded beyond that. I am looking at a video about the languages and stuff like that. Somebody suggested that I watch that, so I'm going to be watching that here real soon. You know what I mean? I have one set up there to watch, but this is so interesting here. You know what I mean? So how is the original culture affected by all this mixing and stuff like that? How much of what we see today is a mixture of different tribal cultures and traditions? How is the clothes that they wear affected by that? You know what I mean? So then again, how can anybody be claimed to be original from one tribe? That's maybe why everything is gone nationality now. Because then when you go in there, you could tell that within that nationality, there's different sections and sects and stuff like that. Those that did survive, because quite a few probably didn't, most likely didn't. Yes.
1000 BC, Dacians and Thracians began developing from these Proto-Thracians. There were about 200 Thracian tribes, with the strong Dacian state appearing in the 1st century BC, including the Illyrians, who inhabited part of the Western Balkans, which came to be known as Illyria to Greek and Roman authors, who identified a territory that corresponds to Croatia, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Slovenia, Montenegro, Kosovo, part of Serbia, and most of central and northern Albania. That said, the Illyrian tribes never collectively regarded themselves as Illyrians. In later Greek mythology, Illyrius was the son of Cadmus and Harmonia, who eventually ruled Illyria and became the ancestor of the whole of what we now call the Illyrian people. A later version of this mythic genealogy gives as parents Polyphemus and Galatea, who gave birth to Celtis and Gallus and Illyrius, three brothers, progenitors respectively of Celts, Galatians or Gauls, and Illyrians. The Kurgan hypothesis, or steppe theory, is the most widely accepted proposal to identify the Proto-Indo-European homeland from which the Indo-European languages spread out throughout Europe, Eurasia, and parts of Asia.
Wow. That's vast.
These are the Thracians, the most multitudinous people in antiquity after the Indians, as Herodotus, the father of history, testified. The land was named after the legendary nymph Thrace, a healer and a prophet. One of the most popular heroes in the world was the gladiator Spartacus, from the Thracian tribe Maedi, leader of the biggest slave rebellion in the Roman Empire. Orpheus, the most famous musician, healer, and philosopher in the ancient world, was also a Thracian. He was born in the Rhodopes, where the mythological story with his wife Eurydice, whom he followed in the underworld, also originally came from. Probably his grave is in the Rhodopes too. Traces from the biblical hero lead to Tatul, a Thracian sanctuary. In the nearby sacred Thracian city of Berberikon, archaeologists are searching for Dionysius' temple, which was famed in antiquity. According to Herodotus, this god is also of Thracian origin, and his temple in the Rhodopes was as popular as the one of Apollo in Delphi. The Thracian king Thrace I, who ruled at the end of the 6th century BC, managed to unite part of the Thracian tribes in the mighty Odrysian kingdom. Nevertheless, the Thracians never did stand together, and were never completely united. Soon after the 1st century AD, the Thracian lands were conquered by the Romans. Over the centuries, their tribes were assimilated by the new conquerors and the invading tribes, among which were the Slavic peoples and the Bulgars. Presently, the Thracian civilization does not stop surprising us with its treasures, gradually revealing its secrets. This land is a cradle of the old European culture, developed here millennia before the creation of the Mesopotamian civilizations and those along the Nile.
Wow, that's kind of cool. Yeah.
This has been proved by the most ancient gold in the world, from the Varna Chalcolithic necropolis and the treasure from the village of Hodnica. The Varna treasure also accounts for the biggest quantity of ancient gold from the 5th millennium BC, consisting of more than 3,000 pieces. Amazing artifacts from the Thracian times have been preserved in the valley of the Thracian kings near Kazanluk. The astounding Thracian tomb of Kazanluk is located there. It is one of the UNESCO World Heritage Sites.
No, here's a question though. A lot of the archaeological digs and stuff, they usually find a lot of things from that the kings left behind. It seems like if the kings and their way of preserving history is preserving the things that they owned, so that people could figure out later on. Maybe that's not their core belief of what they were trying to do, but inadvertently, it turned out to be that. You know what I mean? But then again, I've heard of some archaeological digs where they just find village stuff. I guess it just depends on the people. You know, depend on how the leaders saw things and stuff like that. But you know, a lot of the digging and stuff is bringing up like kings and queens and you know what I mean. People in the hierarchy of the time, you know, or maybe it just maybe could be that that's what they talk about most because people are more intrigued by that other than being, and I mean ordinary people, you know, not archaeologists might not be intrigued by just that, but like ordinary people, you know, they're more intrigued about the riches that they had back then and how they live, how the, you know, lifestyles of the ancient rich and famous, you know what I mean? Because those are the things we hear spoken about those, about the most and thing.
Worldly significance is based on the remarkable murals, the best preserved paintings from the early Hellenistic age in Bulgaria. Notably, the murals in the Alexandrovo tomb near Haskovo are also well preserved. They represent the Thracian religious rituals, cults, imagination, lifestyle and clothing. In the royal tomb near SEPEHR village, another UNESCO object in Bulgaria, we can witness the sculptural artistry of the Thracians. Its inner room is decorated with female figures standing in a line. In the Iliad, Homer wrote the following about the Thracians. They joined the Trojans with their king Rhesus from the Adoni people in the Trojan War. The king's chariot was said to have been decorated with gold, and the Thracian horses were whiter than snow and faster than the wind. After the death of every Thracian king, the grave was covered with a huge pile of earth. The mounds were regarded as doors to eternity, where they performed the sacred rituals of the Orphic mysteries. The Thracians used wine in these rituals. Again, Homer mentioned this famous wine on which both armies in the Trojan War relied to strengthen their powers. We have learnt that the Thracians were famous wine producers from the archaeological finds both in Perperikon and in the temples from the Thracian religious community. Revenues and other resources. In Bulgaria, you can see numerous rich and unique traditions and traditional customs that have reached us from the time of the Thracians. Such are the kukuri masquerade games in the winter. The fire dancing tradition is impressive in summer, dancing on glowing embers, which has a distant Thracian taste. Until today, fire dancing has been touched by mythology, and therefore UNESCO declared it a part of the World Immaterial Cultural Heritage. Despite the existence of dozens of temples, hundreds of mounds and treasures, the history of ancient Thrace still remains mysterious and unfathomable. The Thracians did not leave any written evidence. However, their heroes and myths are still alive, and their artistry shines with the purity of gold. In Bulgaria, a country that is worth discovering, visiting, feeling, and experiencing.
The Varna culture belongs to Neolithic northeastern Bulgaria and southern Romania, dated to around 4400 BC. It is characterized by polychrome pottery and rich cemeteries, including the largest prehistoric cemetery in southeastern Europe. 294 graves have been discovered so far, many containing sophisticated examples of copper and gold metallurgy, pottery, including gold-painted ones, high-quality flint and obsidian blades, beads, and shells, showing that the Varna culture had trade relations with distant lands, displaying a high degree of wealth, including some of the world's oldest gold jewelry, with one of the graves alone containing more gold than has been found in the entire rest of the world for that epoch, including Mesopotamia and Egypt.
Wow.
This period from 5000 to 4000 BC, it is also when the transition to male dominance began in Europe. High status males were buried with remarkable amounts of gold, holding a symbolic war axe or mace, and wearing a gold penis sheath. My name is Robert SEPEHR. I'm an anthropologist. Please check out my published work on Amazon.com. Kindly share this video if you've enjoyed it. Please subscribe, and don't forget to leave a comment. Thanks for watching, and I will...
Now that, my friend, was absolutely interesting. All these ancient civilizations, man, all over the world. And there's strange things that seem to be compatible with one with the other, because there's fire walking in Africa too. Is it borrowed from some people, or is somebody came up with that idea in that region? Is anything original anymore? The only thing I think that's pretty much new right now is technology. But even some of the technology we know had to have been based on rudimentary ideas from ancient civilizations. Like I said, I see somewhere they said Da Vinci had a what you call it, blueprints for helicopters and stuff like that. And you know, back then they had pictures of spaceships and stuff like that. If they believe in, you know, outer space and things like that. That's crazy, isn't it, man? You know. Yeah, and I'll leave a link to this video in the description. Yeah, go check out this guy's channel and thing. You know, looks like some interesting stuff in there. I'll have to check out more of his stuff. And hey, I'll also leave cards here. You could go check out more videos like these on my channel and thing. You know what I mean? And if you subscribe, make sure you hit the notification bell so you know when I put out new videos. All right, because very few people hit that notification bell, so then they don't get to see the giant in action. Listen, man, you all take care of each other, all right? Cool runnings.